Hello and welcome to Grateful by Lady Law, where I interview the people in my life that have made a huge difference, my mentors, friends, support system. Today in the studio we have a very special friend, Fran Sillau. So Fran and I have known each other for
at least 22 years.
Yeah, at least.
Right.
So we met at Iowa Western.
Right.
So I had moved here from Texas, and we were in undergrad together in the education program.
Right. And I think you had just finished. We'd both finished at Iowa Western in the associate's program. I had studied education and theater, and we both decided to stay and do work at Buena Vista, which at that time had a satellite campus. I don't know if they still do, but there's a satellite campus. And so we would go to school Mondays and Thursdays, 5:30 p.m. to 10:45 p.m., and cram a whole semester's class into 8 weeks and do 2 of them.
It was insane.
I look at that experience and go, what was I thinking?
How did I have the energy for that?
Well, you always have energy and still do. But I remember like having this morning job that I would get up at 5 a.m. and go watch kids who were getting ready to go to before they went to school. And then I would go home and do homework and have another job teaching theater and then take a nap and then go to school. And I think there was a lot of Mountain Dew that got me through that period of my life.
You had to have something. So one thing I wanted to talk about was the first day we met.
Oh, sure. I think people thought that I did this on purpose, but I would come to class the first day, really a new semester, and I had a whole bunch of pencils. And at that time, there were desks with like grooves where you put your pencils, and my pencil just kept dropping.
Right.
And you happened to be sitting next to me, and you kept picking up the pencil, and then I would drop it. And our professor was like, are you trying to hit on this person, or what's happening? And I don't know what you were thinking, but I literally just couldn't keep the pencils on the desk. And finally I was like, thank you, I'm Fran. And you were like, I'm Mandy. And for the next 2 years, I think we were in almost every class together.
Yes, I think so. It was funny. So our friendship started with your pencils falling on the floor.
That's right.
And I remember the professor was like, Fran, you might want to stop throwing your pencils on the floor so that pretty girl next to you can pick them up. And I remember your face turned bright red.
Oh, it was bright red. And I don't know why. I think I just wanted to make a good impression because I was doing education work, and I knew this was going to be difficult. I had chosen Buena Vista simply for its nighttime schedule because I wanted to work. Well, you were working, you were at a law firm.
I was working at the front desk of a law firm, and I was bartending some
Yeah,
nights.
right.
So we were both working so much.
I was teaching theater, and that's really what I wanted to do. And this teaching degree was just I'm going to say it, it was to please the parents. Mom and Dad, you're listening. I was pleasing you, and so I got the degree, but it wasn't really what I wanted to do.
Right, because your passion is in the theater.
It's in the theater, and it's including those that have previously or historically been excluded in the theater. So I have a disability. I was born with cerebral palsy. For those listeners and not watching, I walk with forearm crutches, and cerebral palsy manifests itself in different ways. For me, it happened that the legs just work differently. And there were people in my life, including my parents, who were very supportive of what my passions were. And those happened to be theater. And I realized early on that I'd been given these opportunities, that other people had opened the door for me to work in the theater or at least participate. But not every person with a disability is afforded that same opportunity. So I wanted to create those opportunities. And that's what I was doing when we met. I was working for a woman who ran an organization that is now known as Y Arts, which is an organization in Omaha, Nebraska that does work for arts for people with disabilities. And I would work with her in between going to class at Buena Vista. And I created this whole career for myself. I didn't know that's what I was going to do, but I knew that's what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how. So, and that all happened while I was getting to know you.
Yeah, it's incredible. So where was your first experience with the theater?
Oh, it was at a place called the Emmy Gifford Children's Theater in Omaha, Nebraska. It was an acting class. It was one of those, you meet 10 Saturdays, you were in kindergarten, you learn about the process of doing theater, and then you put on a small play. And I wasn't even a reader at that time, so somebody would have to, we'd have to practice the lines at home, and I would decode the words, and I played a kitty cat, and my grandmother made these paper kitty cat paws, and we had whiskers painted on my face. So that was the first play.
Do you have any pictures of this?
Oh, I do.
Oh my
I do.
goodness,
There are
I gotta
lots.
see
There are
this.
many, many pictures. Yeah, and there's a video for if we can find the VCR tape. It all exists.
So this was when you were 5 years old.
5 years old, I think,
That's
maybe
incredible.
in 4. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they say in the theater, you're bitten by the theater bug, and I was definitely bitten then. And so you would take these small classes, and then you'd work up towards auditioning, which is where you come in to a room and you try out, like you're trying out for football or baseball, and they choose you or they don't. But I kept getting cast or put into plays, and I really liked it. And that was as an actor. But there was something calling about going behind the scenes and working as a director and a playwright, who's someone who writes the plays or produces them, somebody who puts it together. I was somebody who was always fascinated by how it got done, how the sausage got made.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of career I fell into.
That's awesome. So I know that, so after school, or after our time in college together, I know you spent some time working at the Rose Theater.
Yeah, Rose Theater is the third largest children's theater in the country, and it is located in Omaha, Nebraska. And I was there for 25 years. I was there actually as I was going to school with you, working part-time. And then I left for a while, moved to Kentucky right after college, and then came back, and they always did what they called jobbed me in. It was like there was always a class to teach or a show to perform in, and pretty soon they put me on staff, and I ended up assuming a role or creating a role for myself. It was the director of accessibility, and it was opening the door and helping creating opportunities for anybody who had not previously felt like they were welcome in the theater. So we would create classes for folks with autism. We would create classes for people with physical disabilities. We would create performance opportunities for them. And then over time, that would manifest itself in helping these folks get on the big stage, which is the main stage, where the general public comes and buys tickets and sees the story that's being told. And it's not always a story at the Rose about disability. It could be, but it's about stories based on high-quality literature that kids pick up and they read, or that schools are interested in teaching and using as learning tools. So there were just lots of opportunities to create programming there. And there were leaders there really took a chance on me. They helped me build programs, and they let me build programs because they believed in what I was doing.
Right.
And it's just a testament that you can make a living in the field of your choice if you're willing to work hard and be honest and roll up your sleeves and do the work.
Right. And you created this niche in the theater and it's just a sense of inclusion for those people that have felt excluded.
Right.
What was the overall consensus of this, over time at the Rose? Did it become part of the programming there?
Oh, it's definitely in the fabric of what they do. And I am happy to take a small ownership of that. But that's really a team of people. And that's why I like working in the theater, because it's not just one person. It's the ensemble of people that really believed that everyone is included. And they allowed me, while I was working at the Rose, to take on another job, and where we also reconnected. And that is a place called Circle Theater, which has been around in the Omaha metro area since 1983. And I had done theater there in the 1990s. And they were ready for a leadership change. And the board of Circle Theater asked me if I would join and help reimagine it into a theater that works specifically with individuals of all abilities. And so I was doing, for a long time, both those jobs, the job at the Rose and the job at Circle Theater. The Rose would, stop programming for those at 18. It's really a pre-K to 18 institution. And then the Circle works on that preteen side all the way to adulthood.
So you kind of get all age groups.
Correct.
Now, when you were at the Rose, I went to several of the shows while you were there, and one of them that sticks in my brain is Shrek.
Yes.
What role did you play on that?
I was the director of Shrek.
That's what I thought, because what I remember in that theater is I actually went by myself and I sat in the back, and I remember through that entire show, there were so many kids watching it, and all I heard was children's laughter the entire time. And I remember thinking, my friend Fran created this experience for these children. Like, it was such a remarkable thing to just look back and think, you did that, Fran.
I was so grateful to you to remember that. It was a great experience. It's Shrek is still, to this day, a story. I mean, it was a movie released in 2000, but it's a story that resonates with so many about being an outsider and about how do I belong? How do I belong in this world? We all can find a place where we belong. And that's what I wanted to do, was to help young people understand that you don't have to be like everyone else. You can be the best version of yourself. And we succeeded in doing that with Shrek. It can also be something that teaches and helps guide children to help others and leads them to the best version of themselves. But it can also be something that the entire community enjoys. And that's what one of the missions of the Rose Theater. And when I left there in 2024 because I was doing more work nationally, and they would have had me there forever. I just knew it was time to pass the baton on to others. So I still work and contract there. I'm just not there full time anymore, but the work there is still going strong. So if you're in the Omaha area, go and support the Rose Theater. Yes. And the work at Circle Theater continues to thrive. We thrived the most during the pandemic. There was a way to reach people doing online work. Mm-hmm. We were able to reach folks on the margins who were shut-ins basically in their house. And through that, I'm grateful for the work. You served as president for a while and still serving on the board. The board really took the reins and helped find money. We went from a $40,000 budget when I started. Now we're at like a $190,000, and I have this great partner who works with me, my co-artistic director, Courtney Stein-Carencross, who has really helped expand outreach. And what we found at Circle Theater, thanks to the help of the board and the help of Courtney, is to create islands for people where we have all these organizations who are not necessarily arts-related organizations serving individuals with disabilities. And transportation can be a barrier. But if we create avenues where professional artists can go to these communities and rehearse a play with them, do an acting class with them, and we place it around a theme or a story. Currently, we're working on a production of Wizard of Oz, where we have 60 individuals of different abilities, all taking on a different part of the production. Wow. Whether that be, the Winkies or the Munchkins. We've got a core company of people who are playing Dorothy and the Tin Man. So they all rehearse in different parts of our city, some at night, some during the day, with a group of professional artists. And they come together 2 weeks before the production. And we have what's called Tech Week. For your non-theater folks, it's when you rehearse for 7 weeks without any elements, without costumes, without some props, and then you come into a theater after you've been rehearsing and you know your lines, and then you put all the other elements together. And we were able to bus and transport people to a theater so they can all do work together those last 2 weeks to put on a production. And it's going to be quite a stellar event.
Yes. So let's talk about, I know there's a lot of things that Circle Theater do. Let's talk about the performances first.
Right.
And I just think about over time, since I've been involved in Circle Theater, there's been a bunch of great shows. One of the ones that kind of really sticks in my mind is the Bee Carp.
Oh, My Broken Doll.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, it's another Buena Vista college experience.
Yes.
We were in education class together, and there's a great professor by the name of Cheryl Rollins,
yes,
who was a supporter of both of ours.
We love Cheryl.
We love Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl. I think you're in St. Louis, so
yes,
this is reaching you. She would have, this was human relations.
Yep.
So she would have speakers come, and one of them was Bee Carp. Beatrice Carp is a Holocaust survivor, and she was in a camp called Gers in France, and she was hidden in a nunnery, I think that's the term, with Catholic nuns, and she masqueraded as a Catholic. And she told the story of when the Nazis came to get her. She had this doll. The doll's name was Carlina, and the soldier said, "Where you're going, you won't need this doll." And she said, "If you can't have it, if I can't have it, you can't have it either." And she throws it on the ground, and it shatters into 1,000,000 pieces. And she told this story, and I was so moved. Yeah. And I got to know her a little bit because right after college, I started working for the Jewish Federation of Omaha, there's a great institution there called the Institute for Holocaust Education, which keeps and tells these stories of Holocaust survivors and their families. And B was one of their speakers. And I was doing work for them. And eventually Circle Theater was commissioning new work. And I said, we have to tell B. Karp's story. And so I called her and called the Institute. And together we commissioned a playwright, a wonderful man by the name of Ernie Nolan, a playwright who now works in Kansas City at the Unicorn Theater. And he took this book under Circle Theater's guidance and made a play out of it with 3 people. And the goal was to tour it all across Nebraska. And so that was the first play that we did at Circle Theater under my leadership. And it toured Nebraska for 2 years and then went to Missouri, Tennessee. There's been a production in Alabama. And it's published by a great publishing company by the name of Dramatic Publishing. So if you're a school that wants to tell this story, it's My Broken Doll, adapted by Ernie Nolan at Dramatic Publishing. It changed my life. Yeah. And it was the last thing that Bea did before she really got sick. We really fast-tracked it. It takes about 2 years, or maybe 3 years to create a play. We knew that the world was losing that first-hand account of Holocaust survivors at an alarming rate. Yeah. So we fast-tracked that. And I'm happy that it has a long life. Yeah. And it's making sure that everybody understands that those events can never happen again. Mm-hmm. They are happening somewhere in the world, and we have to be those people that stand up and say no.
It brings awareness.
Yep.
It's such a beautiful thing, and it's such a moving performance. So.
Moving story.
Yeah. What is another performance that sticks out in your head?
Oh,
I have a couple in mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one we did most recently, Capture the Moon, which is a Yiddish tale about a Christian village and a Jewish village this is a tale before cars, before planes, before automobiles, before there was electric light. And the Christian village and the Jewish village get to know each other by lighting the roads so that each of them can get to their place of worship on their respective days. And they try to work together to capture the moonlight. And they realize you can't capture the moonlight, but you can help create light for one another. And that was another 52-person version production with all sorts of agencies from all over the region, each taking a different part and learning cultural dance and learning different roles and learning how to work together. And so that was exciting. And I also loved a production we did of The Little Prince, which is based on the French tale, with each group in that groups of individuals with disabilities. The play takes place on different planets, and so each group took a different planet, and they were able to create their own props and scenery and costumes. And with the help of a professional artists, we were able to bring all of this together. And there were 75 people in that show.
Remarkable.
It's a wonderful feat, and I can't do it without the amazing board and staff. But what do you remember?
2 that stick out in my head, the Boob Girls.
Oh, the Burnt Out Old Brides, yes. Well,
that was a good one.
It was a musical based on a book written by Nebraska author Joy Johnson.
Yes.
And it's about 5 women of a certain age who go across Nebraska.
Golden Girls, right?
The Golden Girls in a Hummer.
Yeah.
And they find a new life for themselves, and they create new adventures, and they stop this crazy man who wants to steal their money from stealing their money. But it's all about life doesn't end at a certain age. Right. And that's the other thing that Circle Theater wants to show is that they're really in the theater and in the entertainment industry, there's still this idea that there's not roles for certain women over a certain age. Yeah. And we wanted to challenge that. Yeah. That you're at your best when you're at that age. So this woman, Joy Johnson, came to my writing partner and I, Mark Kurtz, and said, would you create a musical out of this? And then we said yes, and we would have done it for free. But then she found the money, and we put that show up in less than 2 years. And we're working on a rewrite of it now, so hopefully it will have another life. But yeah, it was one of the most popular shows in Circle Theater's history. And
it was a hoot to watch. And one of the things that I loved about it is, again, with that sense of inclusion, we actually had nursing homes come in. We invited people from nursing homes, and just the seats were packed on almost every performance. And there were huge buses that would bring these people. And, something they probably don't do very often is go to the theater. And then again, I sit in the back row and I watch all these people laughing, and it brought so much joy to all of these people, and I was moved, you know?
Yeah, something I wasn't expecting. I mean, I
Yeah.
knew the show was good, but I didn't know it would have an impact. And that's the one thing I would say to listeners. You never know the impact you're going to have on others, and you never know until you walk a mile in someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
I look forward to the day that I am the age of those women
Yeah.
and in the play.
Yeah.
And every day I'm a step closer. But I said to myself, I want to take that knowledge that these women have given me, these characters and these actors, and use it now and make my life better now and hopefully make the lives of others better.
Right. Absolutely. And then the other one that really stands out to me is one that we did fairly recently, Charlie Brown.
Oh, Charlie Brown, yes. One of my first years, I like to do stories that everybody knows, but then do them in a different way. And so we've done it a few times, but I think the Charlie Brown you're talking about is the one at the Jewish Community Center with...
Yes.
Yep. So we expanded the Charlie Brown role, the world. You're a Good Man Charlie Brown has like 7 of the original characters, but we took out the comic strip, thanks to Courtney Stein, our beloved co-artistic director, and created a role for everybody and said, what Peanuts character do you want to be?
Yeah.
And we gave them dancing roles and singing roles without changing the script if the publisher is watching. But we were able to create chorus roles for these folks. And our big thing at Circle Theater is that you want to have at least a moment to shine. And I think we gave them like 7 moments to shine, each of them. And it was just one of those experiences that says one of the characters like Charlie Brown, they're universal.
Yeah.
They stand the test of time.
Yeah.
And there's something about being on the outside. And Charlie Brown is on the outside and finds ways to be on the inside and is much better. His friends are much better when he is included. And I want the people in Circle Theater to realize that they are much better when we allow them to be included on the inside of the circle. And
it was one of those, you know, a couple of the performances I went to, I saw the actors supporting each other on stage. Like there was a few times that somebody may not have remembered a line, and just the support and camaraderie of the actors on stage, just, really pulling each other up. Like it was such a beautiful performance in that way. Plus, aesthetically, it was gorgeous. It was so colorful. It was so vibrant. It was just such a cool show.
Well, and that's the beautiful thing about the theater. We have this great designer, Angela Dashner, who really makes something out of almost nothing. We give her a budget. If there was a scenic designer or a set designer listening, you wouldn't want to know what our budget is, but she's able to create something
She's amazing.
out of nothing and make it fill that whole space.
Yep, she's incredible. Yeah, so those are, there's so many performances that we've done over the years. The other one that really sticks in my mind is the one that we did at the cafe up north.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Phil's Diner.
Yes.
Phil's Diner, for those listening who don't know, Circle Theater was founded by a group of students from the University of Nebraska, Omaha, who wanted to work together after graduation. And the expense of live theater, even in the 80s, was growing, and they couldn't afford a traditional theater space with lights and sound. So they would do theater in diners. Yeah. And so they would write these episodic pieces. And this was about this guy named Phil who ran this diner and all the people that he would interact with. And I wanted to pay homage to those folks who really started this theater. So we decided to revive with the original cast this original diner play. And the playwright and the original artistic director, Doug Mark, came back, and all the people that were still around came back and reprised their roles. And there was just something magical about that, because these are people that I grew up with. I grew up learning from them, working with them. And so for them to allow me to let them tell this story again, it was exciting. And the playwright, Doug Marr, was very sick at that time. He had spinal bifida. I should say Doug also had a disability. He was the first person I knew who was having a career in the arts with a disability. So he was a mentor to me. And to be able to do this small thing for him, I'm glad that we did shortly after he passed away. And I'm grateful that my instincts said, go do this play.
Right.
It's something that I'll always remember.
And as being an audience member at that play, so it took place in the actual diner.
Right.
And before the play started, everyone got a piece of pie. And, it's one of those old school diners where the counter is in the middle and all the booths are around, and the actors are literally all over the entire diner.
Yeah.
The whole scene is the diner. So the audience is actually part of the play. It was Such a cool experience.
It was what the theater people listening, it's called immersive or site specific. And this is a diner that at the time of this airing still exists, Harold's Diner.
Yeah.
It's in Florence.
Yes, go to it. It's
Go
awesome.
to it, Florence and Omaha, not Florence, Italy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and they allowed us to do this. And the Circle Theater was one of the first theaters in town to do this sort of work. It wasn't unique to them, but they were the first one in the Nebraska metro area to bring this kind of theater. And they're pioneers. They were just pioneers.
Yeah, very cool. All right, so other things that Circle Theater does, there's our outreach to the schools.
Right.
Right, what did we do there?
So we've got a playwright program that is just picking up again, giving students with disabilities an opportunity to write short plays. And not everybody is a writer in the traditional sense. Writing physically is not their thing, but we have teachers, artists, also writers, who are skilled not only in their art form, but in the art form of teaching individuals with disabilities. And they help them through improvisation, making things up without a script, act out these scenes, and then they get transcribed, and then they get to act them out. We also have what's called the Theater Discovery Program that also helps individuals experience the different jobs in the theater, because not everybody's an actor,
Right.
but you can be a costume designer, someone who designs the sets, someone who works the front of house, tickets, someone who works arts administration, and is a writer in terms of writing grants and raising money, which is also an art form.
Yes.
So we work at helping individuals find their niche in the theater or in the arts as a vocation, but also as a way to give back to the community.
Awesome. What other things are we out there doing?
We're out there working in special, not special, that's an old term. We're in with facilities serving individuals with disabilities.
Yes.
So we are working with armed forces. We have a grant for something called Creative Forces, which is helping military families affected by disability find their way in the arts. So we're working on something called the Enchanted Threads program. And those individuals right now are working at creating costumes for our production of The Wizard of Oz. And we're having costume building workshops led by professional artists to help build costume pieces that actors will then wear. So we're giving them opportunity to use their artistic skills in a practical way, in a way that also helps the theater.
Yeah. Now, Circle Theater is not the only big thing going on in your life right now, is it?
Right. Just one of, I'm lucky to a man who spins many plates.
Yes. So what else? What else do you have?
So
going on?
recently, 5 years ago, I ran across a book. A colleague called and said, "Have you seen the Today Show? There's this book. It's called Just Ask. Be different, be brave, be you." And I said, "Oh yeah, I saw the interview with the author on the Today Show." And this director said, "We're going to get the rights to that book, and you're going to be the playwright and the director." And I said, "Right on." This is October of 2019. And so I submitted all my stuff, and of course in January of 2020, no, it was March of 2020, everything shuts down. So the project was shelved. And then the theater that called me, they closed. But I knew I didn't want this to go away. So I found this person's email of their literary agent and emailed and said, "I'd like to pursue this." And he gave me some thoughts, wanted me to put together some applications and some documentation of the kind of work I do as an artist. And I actually had you write a letter of recommendation to this person. And usually takes about 6 to 8 months. So I got this application in a week, and then we got word back that this project wanted to go forward. And the project is a book called Just Ask, Be Different, Be Brave, Be You, by Sonia Sotomayor. And your listeners can look her up. She has a pretty...
She's kind of a big deal
kind
in
of a
our
big
country.
deal in our country, and has an important full-time job.
Yeah.
But she allowed my writing partner, Mark Kurtz, and I an opportunity to create a play based on her book, which is all about kids who are creating a garden. And it's all about what makes us unique. It's all about how our differences make us unique. And recently that play opened at the Coterie Theater in Kansas City. And there are lots of other productions we hope that will be planned in the near future. And it's been a joy to collaborate on something that I consider to be my life's work, which is including other abilities in the world of the performing arts. And it's something that I'm glad that Sonia Sotomayor allowed me to take a part in, and that she was willing to collaborate.
That's wonderful. That's such a cool thing, Fran. So one of the things I always ask my guests on the show is, if there's any particular people in your life that have been inspirational to you or mentors to you, or...
Sure. Well, you were one. I couldn't have gotten through that undergraduate period without you, and changed lanes a few times, and we were both there for each other.
Right.
My parents, who have, they always said, you can do it, but you're going to have to work twice as hard as everybody else, and that's just the way it is. And they allowed the avenue for me to pursue my dreams. There are others, one being Carolyn Owen Anderson, who was someone who started that organization, Y Arts, that I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation. She found me working at a place called the Nebraska Shakespeare Festival. They produce Shakespeare on the Green, and she wouldn't let me go until we had lunch together. And she hired me in 2004 to teach classes, theater classes for people with disabilities. And it wasn't something that I wanted to perform and wanted to work in the theater. I didn't necessarily thought I was going to do theater for people with disabilities, but she's the one who opened the door. And in 2021, during COVID, she retired from Y Arts and came to Circle Theater, and the roles flipped. She worked for me and helped us really make that theater, get it to the next level. Yeah. And under her guidance, we won the 2023 Nebraska Arts Award for Inclusion, the State Arts Award. And she passed away recently, so she'll always be a mentor, and she's with me. My good colleague, Cordy Stein, Karen Cross. And, of course, there's a wonderful man. He was a Broadway legend and a Hollywood casting director. His name is Eddie Foy III. Look him up, friends. The Foys are big in this industry. And he found me when I was 10 years old at a festival and said, you're going to be something special, and I want to help you in your career. And he did. And he helped me understand all the entertainment industry, and embraced my quirkiness and my wanting to know all about history. And so those are people in my life, mentors, and many are not with us physically, but they are still, they're still with us in the metaphysical world, and I'm grateful. And they're always with me. My parents are still here, however, so hi, Mom and Dad, thanks so much.
One of the people that I think about that we also have a common thread with, that's not with us anymore, but that I think was really profound, at least for me, was Jackie Delahunt.
Jackie Delahunt, yes.
I miss that lady. She was one of our college professors.
Right.
Most of our English classes, Jackie taught us, and she just had a way about her. I wouldn't let many people call me Franny, but she would call me Franny. And there were some times where we would read books like in lickety-split. And I'm not the quickest reader. And I think there was one day when I had written this response to a book and didn't really understand what it was about. And she looks at me and says, I don't think you know what this book is about, so I'm going to give you another chance to reread it. But she was stern. In a good way. Right. She made sure you understood the material. Yes. And that even if you felt like you weren't going to need this the rest of your life, you're going to find a time when you're going to need this. And she fought valiantly. I think she was ill, and we didn't know it. Yeah. Cancer. And you would never know it. And this is a lesson, folks. If there are people in your life that you want to tell how much they mean to you, don't wait. Tell them. And I'm grateful that we did with Jackie. Yeah, me too. Yeah. One of the fun things I always remember about her is like the last day of class, she would take us to Pizza King.
Oh, yeah, for the listeners, Pizza King is like the hangout, just all-American restaurant. And we would sit in this bar at 11 o'clock at night.
With our students.
With our students. And I think I ate things there I couldn't eat today. Right. I mean, my body won't take it. But it was great. And it's amazing. She has lots of family, and I become friends with her family in the intervening years. She's passed almost 20 years ago, about right after we graduated. And but she had a way of showing us a world that we didn't know existed. I don't know if I would have read Chaucer or Keats, but she had a way of helping us understand how it connects to our world today. And so you're up there, and you're with us, Jackie, and thank you so much.
Yes, she was such an impactful person. Is there anybody or anything else that you wanted to share with listeners about, your career or anything that you've done, or, I know that there's so much that you've experienced. So I just wondered if there was anything else.
Yeah, I really wanted to just share with the listeners, if you're out there and you're trying to find your place in the world, this is a very confusing time we're in. And it's hard to cut through the noise. It's hard to be able to say, I don't know if what I'm doing makes a difference. But I encourage everyone to listen to that small voice inside you, that's inside all of us, that tells us how we should be spending our day and how we should be helping each other. And listen to what that voice says and let it guide you to what you're supposed to do next. Remember that it's hard to change everything about the world, but you can make a small difference by doing one small thing a day for someone else. And I am not a perfect person. I do not do everything right. But when all else fails, I try to just come back to that core center of who I am and what it is that I want to accomplish and what's the one thing I can do for someone else today. And if I can do that, then tomorrow will continue and will take care of itself, and we can all go on and continue to make positive change in the universe.
Absolutely. All those things you say are spot on, and coming from you, they're gold, because over the years, Fran, I've watched you from the pencils falling off the table. Yeah. I love that story.
Yes.
To all of the ways, we've reached out to each other to lean on each other throughout the years. And you live what you speak, and you persevere even at times that, seem so hard. Running a theater company is not the easiest thing. And, you're on a shoestring budget. You're hoping that people will show up for the performance. There's so many challenges. You're organizing volunteers and actors, and, a lot of people have big personalities and big opinions, and you've become the mediator of so many things. And you are the artistic director, but you hold so many hats. You have so many hats on in the theater, just in Circle Theater alone. And I've just watched you manage all of this, and it's incredible to watch you do that, Fran.
Well, thank you. We don't do it alone. We stand on the shoulders of giants. We know what we do well, and we try to empower others to do that work too. And I couldn't do that without you and Angela and Courtney and the board. Yeah. It's all about finding your people, finding your tribe of folk, and letting them help you, and then helping each other. So if that's what I'm saying to the listeners out there, there is hope. Your tribe is out there. They will help you. Just take that extra step and put your one foot in front of the other. You will find it. Yep. You will find your way.
And the other thing that I observe about you, Fran, over the years is that, you are a person with a disability, but you don't let that define you. You don't complain. You've adapted in so many ways because of it, and that's truly been an inspiration to me. And just on any given day when I'm like, I don't feel like I want to do this, or I don't feel like I can do this because of whatever, there's times I've thought of you, and I'm like, my friend Fran picks himself up every day. Life is can be challenging for him. Things I take for granted, may be somewhat of a challenge for him or a huge challenge for him, and he just keeps going. And so that's really pushed me forward. So I want to let you know that a lot of the success in my life, like, you've been an inspiration on a daily basis. So
I'm honored, and I am honored to know you, and you're also an inspiration to me. I think you started in education. We both did.
Yeah.
And then we decided, no, that's not what the universe is telling us today.
Right.
So I follow into the theater, and you go into law, and you have made such a difference in the world of so many. And I'm grateful to know you.
Thank you. And the other big support system that you've been for me is when, the passing of Walt. My listeners know about that because I talk, it comes up every session. But one thing that you did is that you've reached out to me beyond just, there's kind of that grace period after somebody passes away and people check on you. And it's fine that people don't continue to check on you because, life does go on. But you've been like one friend that's always, checked in. And that, I can't tell you how much that I appreciate that. And, acknowledging that loss. I think sometimes people are afraid to, like, oh, if I bring this up, will this just, will it bring it to the surface? But you've always just done it with such grace that's huge. It just tells me who you are.
Well, I'm honored. We've both had significant losses in our life. Yeah. And the one thing I've learned is that those people they're still here.
Yes.
They're still with us. And to talk about them, there's a saying in the Jewish community where I've worked a lot. May their memory be a blessing.
Yes.
And his memory is a blessing. And one way we can show that blessing is by talking about them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Well, we could sit here and talk every day. We could go deep into a lot of this stuff, right. But, we have to hit the highlights. So, here towards the end of the show now, I just wanted to, again, express my gratitude for you. For being here today, joining me, getting out in this cold weather here in Nebraska, and just sharing with the listeners your story. And the one other thing too is that I myself didn't know much about theater when I met you, and I really probably had been to 2 plays my whole life. And I thought, I don't really, think I may not like this. I loved it, and I embraced it because it was one thing to sit in the audience. But it was also to watch you behind the scenes. It made me really give me an appreciation for theater. So if anybody's listening and they aren't sure if they like theater, I would say it is a great entertainment.
Jump in. There's lots of ways to participate,
right.
Even if you feel like you don't want to be on stage. It's something we need now in art form more than ever.
Yeah.
Netflix and those things are great, but you don't get that one-on-one
exactly
immediacy.
Yep.
So.
And I'd really encourage listeners to go to circletheater.com.
Circletheateromaha.org.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Circletheateromaha.org. I can't even talk because that's the website for Circle Theater. It's a great website. It was revamped a few years ago. Yep. It has a lot of great information. It talks to, about, I think you can be a donor there. You can find out our performance schedule.
Yep. Know what we're doing. And Circle Theater, Omaha Theater with an R-E.
Yes.
.org.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in today to Grateful by Lady Law. You can find us anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts, like Spotify, Apple Podcast, or you can watch us on YouTube. Until we meet again, stay grateful.
A Huda Media Production.